One of the things that I was sitting down there thinking, and I suddenly had this thought. My sermon totally changed while I was sitting down. Suddenly I had this thought, Extreme Makeover, Home Edition. Seen it? Yeah. Oh, brilliant show. The American one's better than the British one by a country mile. Okay, because the houses they make are just remarkable. And I'll never forget episodes like there was this episode where there was 7 kids and the parents died. And the oldest child was about 16 and was looking after the family. And just amazing, this kid, but they had nothing. The parents weren't wealthy. They were living in this clapped out house. The kids had no earning power and the family had nothing. And they were relying on charity from around them. And somebody had written in and these people had come in and they built them a house. And it wasn't just a house that could cope with 7 kids. It was one of these luxury American mansions. How they paid the fuel bill, I don't know. But one of these luxury American mansions. But what was beautiful about it was every single kid had their own room. But what was even more beautiful about it was every single kid had their own room tailored to their wants, desires, loves, ages, and everything else. And so these kids walked into these rooms, and it still gets my heart beating now, and their eyes just popped out of their heads as they saw the tiny little thoughts that had gone into the intricate details of where the bed was laid and how it was decorated and how the door was positioned and everything. And the tables that had been laid downstairs so the dining room had everything catered for them so they'd be looked after and sorted out. And how the living room had been set up with this massive screen which they could probably play their PlayStations on to the heart's content. And all of these little bits. And I was sitting there thinking, and my Father in heaven has a house with many rooms, and Jesus has gone ahead to prepare a place for me. And I'm thinking, isn't it going to be cool, right? You get to heaven, and it's like Extreme Makeover, Heaven Edition, and yeah, trumps any house you've made, yeah, or any garden you've prepared, yeah. And he is spending all of this time going around the room thinking, what else can we do? What else can we do to make them just go, what? Like this, and just have their minds blown. And so he is longing for you. He is longing to be with you. He can't wait. He's so excited about seeing you. And so while he's in heaven and his Spirit is with us here, he is preparing a place for us. He hasn't just died and gone to heaven. He's busy. He's busy sorting out where the telly's going to go, or proverbial telly, or whatever it is in heaven. It's probably holographic, I don't know. Could even be light years ahead of that. Who knows? But the Bible isn't clear on those details, but what it is clear on is that there is a house with many rooms, and you have a place, and it's being prepared for you. It's being prepared for you. There's thought and consideration. It's nothing like going to a wedding where people have planned it and planned it and planned it and all the intricate details. And so you'll walk into the church and there's all these little bits and symbols and everything else, which is just showing how much they love one another. And you go in and you sit down at the tables in the reception area, and there's these little bits in the middle, and they have all significance and meanings, and there's this place that's been prepared for you, and you're on the top table and your name's down and everything else. I went to a Chinese wedding once in Hong Kong, and I was given almost the front row seat next to the bride and groom's family, and because I was a minister, go figure, they respect their ministers out there, and I'm joking. Actually, funny story, I'll tell you. So anyway, after the wedding, we went up to greet the bride and groom. Yeah? They haven't met me yet, yeah? And I'm sitting on top table with the reception. Never met me. And so I greet the bride and groom, and they say hello and everything else. And of course, they're speaking Cantonese, and I don't speak a word of it, so we're just doing this and saying hello. And the guy that's with me is interpreting, and they're laughing and giggling, and I'm just laughing and giggling, as an Englishman does when they don't understand a word that's being said, and everybody's laughing. Oh dear, I have no idea what you're saying. So anyway, they're laughing and giggling, and then Paul, the guy, he turned around to me and he said, they're staying in the same hotel as you tonight. I think, oh, how lovely, that's wonderful, we can have breakfast together. No, that's not what I said. And I thought, that's wonderful, like this. And I think I was in room 218 or something like that. And I said, oh, that's brilliant. I said, what room are you staying in? So Paul kind of turns around and says, what room are you staying in? And he turns around and he says, they're in 217. Tell you what, I spent the whole night. What was that noise? Terrible night's sleep I got that night. But they were thrilled, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'd be so embarrassed if I was you. But that was just a funny story, and that's not part of the sermon. Where is he going with this? Basically, Christ's treasure is the people in Philippi. Paul's treasure is the people in Philippi, and he longs to be with them. He longs with the love, the affection, the affect, the emotional passion for the people is coming from Christ. And it relates to how we as Christians learn to love one another. The emotional passion that we have comes from Christ. Doesn't come from ourselves. One of the things that came out of the prayer meeting on Wednesday was we are not to love one another purely with our love, but we are to love one another with the love that Christ has shown us. And the love that Christ has shown us is the love that the Father shows him. Yeah, we know this from John 13 and John 15, if you want to go and check my theology. And so we get this impression that until we know Christ's love for us, it is impossible for us to be able to give Christ's love to someone else. So how much do you know he loves you? Genuinely. And I know this. Some of you will be sitting there and you'll be thinking, yeah, he loves me. But actually, when you deeply think about it and pray about it and you're in your quiet time, you're praying, Lord, show me your love, because I'm not sure I get it. Or show me, because it's hard. It's hard sometimes to figure out how he loves us when I can't see him. And so these things are difficult. And so we read in the Bible, and this is why the Bible is so critical and so important. We read in the Bible about how Jesus relates to others, and it tells us about his spirit towards us and how he relates towards us.